Now, there's honestly just a select few super high quality dividend oriented ETFs that I have been buying and plan on buying like crazy throughout 2025. Every single one of these ETFs are super high quality, relatively safe, and offer dividends from day one. Now, some of these ETFs are going to be a little bit more growth focused and lower yield, and some of them are going to be super high yield and a little bit less growth. Also, some of these ETFs you probably have heard about, but I almost promise you haven't heard of all of them. So if you want to see which 5 ETFs I plan on buying like crazy throughout the rest of this year to keep padding my long-term portfolio, and hopefully get closer and closer to my personal goal of $8,500 per month in dividends. Well, then make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here. Now, for those of you guys that might be new here, welcome, of course. This is my custom dividend tracker where I track all the different stocks and ETFs that I currently hold through all my different brokerage accounts. Now, across all my portfolios, I currently have $1 to $2 million invested in the market in different dividend paying stocks and ETFs. Now, as of right now, my portfolio pays me almost $95,000 per year and around $7,900 per month in dividends. Now, like I mentioned during the intro, I do want to get to $8,500 per month by the end of 2025, so I do need to keep doing a ton of buying every single trading day if I want to get there. Now, that brings me to the first ETF that I do want to keep adding a ton of in my portfolio throughout 2025. The ETF I'm talking about is the Amplify CWP Growth and Income ETF, or QDVO. Now, you probably have heard of DIVO. This is the same provider, Amplify ETFs, and this ETF is similar but a little bit different. It says, why invest in a QDVO? It says growth and high income potential, seeking capital appreciation from growth-oriented stocks with high monthly income from option premiums and dividends. It also says equity exposure with lower volatility. Covered calls and dividends may help reduce volatility versus the overall market during times of broad-based market declines. Now, this ETF is actively managed, which allows the management to identify opportunities and risks and act on those decisions in real time. Now, right now in QDVO, there's 58 holdings, names like Microsoft, names like Apple, names like Nvidia, tons of super familiar names that not only pay dividends, but also are relatively high beta, which means there's a lot of income potential when you're selling calls. Now, the distribution rate for QDVO is pretty high at almost 9%, so that's going to offer a ton of income potential, which is especially important because, like I said, my goal is $8,500 per month this year. Now, the next ETF that I want to keep buying throughout 2025 is the SCHD ETF, or the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. Now, this ETF is nothing new in my portfolio. You guys know I've been buying this ETF every day straight, more or less, for the last 3 years. I'm sitting at around 2,400 shares just about. I do want to try to get closer and closer to 3,000 shares, although at this point I definitely have slowed down a little bit buying SCHD. Now, SCHD is great because it's low cost. It offers a dividend of around 3.5% to start off with. It does offer a little bit more upside because there's no covered call, of course, attached to this ETF. But the ETF is well diversified. It offers dividends and dividend growth, and over the last several years has really become a massive pillar in my long-term portfolio. Now, the cool thing about SCHD is that even if today or tomorrow the dividends aren't massive, over the next several years to come, the dividends are going to grow. So this ETF still is on my daily buy list. I've been grabbing a share or two here and there, just like always, stacking up more and more shares that, again, won't really impact my income like crazy today or tomorrow, but in a few years, we'll see about that. Now, speaking of impacting my income, this ETF, on the other hand, is definitely impacting my income very, very quickly. SPYI, or the NEOS S&P 500 High Income ETF, which is an S&P 500 covered call ETF that's tax efficient, relatively speaking, and offers some upside because at times this ETF is going to also buy SPX index options. Now, SPYI has become very popular over the last year for its stability as far as price, for its stability as far as NAV goes, but also along with that, it offers a monthly consistent-ish distribution of around 51 cents more or less per share. Now, I started buying this ETF well over a year ago and now have somewhere around 900 shares at last count, so my monthly income alone from this one has gotten quite large. Another ETF that I'm going to grab more and more shares of because I personally do want more S&P 500 exposure, but I want it through a high income vehicle. And just a side note, if you guys want to see me dig super deep into any one of these ETFs, I do post videos about all these different ETFs alone on my channel, so check out some of my other videos. Now, like I was saying a second ago, this ETF that yields around 12%, it does not take much money at all invested into something like this for it to really impact your overall monthly and then, of course, annual dividend amounts. Now, because this is more of a high income ETF, it's not going to offer as much growth exposure, but again, having a mix of income and growth for me personally is what I'm looking for. Now, the next ETF that I want to keep buying like crazy in 2025, especially if we see a dip in the market from here, is the Goldman Sachs NASDAQ 100 Core Premium Income ETF, or JPIE. Now, I've made a few videos about this ETF already in the last few months, and that's because I cannot stop buying it. This ETF is awesome, especially for an investor like myself that does want, like I was just saying, income, but also I want some capital appreciation. Now, it seems almost too good to be true when there's a product that comes out in the market that matches almost perfectly what you specifically are looking for. And I'm not saying every single one of you guys are super interested in income and or growth, but I am saying that if you're like myself, you do want a little bit of both. Now, this ETF says seeks consistent monthly distributions, aims to generate consistent monthly distributions, which have been very consistent at around 40 cents more or less per share per month. Now, this ETF buys into the NASDAQ 100 and dynamically sells call options. Now, because they're dynamically sold, there is going to be some more upside, some more growth potential, at least if the NASDAQ 100 plays nice. But along with that, this ETF yields around 10% more or less and offers upside. It's managed by Goldman Sachs. This ETF is almost as good as it gets if you want an income ETF focused on the NASDAQ. Now, the last ETF that I do want to buy a lot more of in 2025, and I've sort of been neglecting as of recently, I haven't added more shares to my portfolio in a little bit, is VIG, or the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. Now, this ETF seeks the performance of the S&P US Dividend Growers Index. It's super well diversified with 300 plus different single stocks inside of it. And honestly, I would just really consider this a sleep well at night ETF. Now, there's going to be certain ETFs in my portfolio that might have a little bit more risk, a little bit less risk, but names like VIG from Vanguard specifically, I feel like I can buy, add some shares to my portfolio, and never worry about it whatsoever. Now, the ETF is super low cost at an expense ratio of 0.05%. It only offers a 1.65% yield, so you're not necessarily going to get rich off of dividends when it comes to this one. But as far as performance goes, since inception, the ETF is up almost 500%. It's much more growth oriented, although it does offer dividends and dividend growth, of course. I only have a small position of VIG as of right now in my portfolio. I think I have 22 shares or something, but I do want to add more and more VIG in my portfolio throughout the next year. So those are 5 specific ETFs that I have been buying as of recent, plus I want to keep buying a lot more. A lot of newer investors always ask me which ETFs are best to buy, and especially these days in 2025 with so many different ETFs out there that almost seem to offer every single thing that almost every single investor could ever imagine. It just takes some time to do some research, watch some videos like mine, and really find a product that matches what you're looking for. Now, I say that because certain ETFs like Coney or MSTY are going to offer a ton of income potential, and names like SCHD or VIG are going to offer a little bit less income, but a ton of growth potential. So especially if you're newer to investing, go through some of my previous videos, because like I said, I explained all these different products, all these different ETFs in detail. But now one last thing before you guys go, I do have a question for you down below. In 2025, if I were to ask you, what are a few ETFs you have your eyes on to add a lot more to your portfolio this year? Let me know which ones they are. Drop the ticker symbols in my comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.